was built to last with the limbs and the weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on the gas, never stop competing. If you break my glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of On the Mic with Mike. I'm your host, Mike Larkin, and joining me tonight is adult star, content creator, Tyffany Million, aka Tyffany Mellon, for the gorgeous ladies of wrestling fans. Tyffany, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you tonight. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I got to say, first and foremost, congratulations are in order. 2025 AVN Hall of Fame. Congratulations. Long overdue.
Yeah, kind of.
I will say that's a big honor to be a part of the AVN Hall of Fame when you really think of just the overall class and just everything from films and everything that goes into the craft of the adult entertainment industry. I think it's a great honor. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, it is certainly a great honor. I'm very, very honored and flattered. And like I said, we were talking before we went to camera. It's really a perfect timing for this to happen for me. It's timed with my re-entry into the adult business after being away for 30 years. So it's very apropos, the timing.
I will have to say now, the fact that you're going in after 30 years, which is awesome to see you back into the fold, but how are you feeling going back into it now? Because there's so many things to really get into. We have OnlyFans, we have so many different content creations and content creative websites and a great community in itself. So how are you feeling after 30 years, really getting back into it now?
Oh, I'm really excited. There's so many more avenues now. Back in the day, it was just DVD and video, and some movie theaters were still open, believe it or not, when I was in the business before. But now you just have so many more avenues for content and so many more opportunities to have closer interaction with the fans, which is what I really like. I really like OnlyFans for that reason, because my fans are able to make special requests and tell me what they like and what they want to see and comment on, my content. So that's really nice to have that close interaction with them.
I think what's great about it, and I like how you also worded that, because I think in today's day and age, we become more normalized with how the adult entertainment industry is and content creation. And I think from what is once used to be taboo, everybody in today's day and age, and especially in life in itself, we all have our preferences and unique preferences. And a lot of people are really starting to really open up and be more just like, this is what I like. This is who I am. And I think that's really cool because it adds another layer and level to really what we get to see today. And I think that's really awesome for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I didn't want to leave the industry to begin with when I left. I mean, it was some personal family problems. I don't know if you saw the post on my social media, but I had some family and personal issues that caused me to leave the business. And then life happened, got married, had a baby, and was married for 23 years and couldn't come back to the industry because my husband, he knew, of course, what I used to do, but he didn't know Tyffany Million at all. He had no desire to know that side of me. He only knew Sandra. So it's not like I could have just gone back and done movies while I was married. And we divorced this past June. And so now I am free to return after 30 years. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
I think what I've always admired about your career and you as a whole in this Million is the fact that you're very multifaceted, from Glow, from the adult entertainment industry, and we'll get to a lot in today's forum, but I really do like the fact of you're a go-getter. You really do apply your craft in amazing fashion, but also at the same time, when opportunity knocks, you knock down the door, which is how you really have to view life in itself,
Oh, absolutely. And then let's not forget Bounty Hunter.
Well, we'll actually start there, because that actually piqued my interest, just because wife, mom, bounty hunter. First and foremost, I love the fact of the case of the bounty hunter, because when you think of the bounty hunters, you think of Dog the Bounty Hunter, you think of a lot of great shows and really just the overall occupation and job that is a bounty hunter. Talk about how that came to fruition, because I've seen the photos, I've seen some of the footage, badassery at its finest. Let's talk about it, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was already a licensed private investigator in California. And so I went to a training conference for bail bondsmen because I thought I wanted to add bail bondsmen to my repertoire once I became a private investigator, because in California, the two kind of go hand in hand, the licensing and everything. So at the conference for bail bondsmen, seated behind me was this huge, like Mexican, tatted down, bald head, tons of earrings, like super tough, scary looking guy. And like nobody would sit next to him. He was kind of off by himself. And I just turned around to him and I said, "Wow, you're interesting looking. What's your story?" And he goes, "I'm Laurel." And I said, "Oh, Laurel, okay. So what's the scoop? Why are you here?" He says, "I'm a bounty hunter." A bounty hunter. I said, "Oh, it's very interesting. That's something I'd actually considered doing before." Because you know, bail bondsman bounty hunting kind of goes hand in hand. So when I got interested in writing bail bonds, I thought, well, I'm going to look into doing bounty hunting as well, because if my clients jump bond, I have to be able to retrieve them and put them back into custody. So when he told me he was a bounty hunter, I thought, oh, I want to hear what he has to say. So I pulled up a chair next to him and just started talking to him. And I think he was really surprised because I'm this, you know, petite little blonde, and he's this big, scary looking guy. I'll look like he just got out of prison. It probably did. And so I just started picking his brain, and I said, "Do you think that your boss would have any use for someone like me as a bounty hunter? Because you guys could send me into places where you guys can't go, because nobody would ever suspect me, right? I don't look like what you would think a bounty hunter would look like." And he kind of, yeah, maybe. Let me talk to my boss. Let me get your number. So his boss was a very well-known bounty hunter in the industry. His name is Zeke Unger, and he had his own reality show as well for a while. And his company is called World Executive Protection Group, and they are based out of the Van Nuys Airport in California, in Van Nuys, California. So Zeke and I talked on the phone, and he said, "You know, actually, I think I might be able to use somebody like you, because you're right. I could send you into places where I can't send Laurel and some of the other guys, because nobody would suspect you." So I went over and met him in person, and he hired me. And because I had all my licensure in order, I was already a licensed private investigator, and I was getting my bail bonds licensing in order. And he trained me. And so I was able to break several cases that his other bounty hunters were unable to break. And he was very happy about that. I recall putting one particular woman into custody, and he was so happy because they'd been trying to break that case forever, and I broke it. So he wanted to train me to do executive protection on top of bounty hunting. And then his business partner was a female. She was a former Los Angeles sheriff's deputy. And she, I don't know how, but somehow found out that I was a former porn star and put the brakes on that. She made Zeke fire me.
Oh, man. Now, I'm going to just put this into the forefront here as you're telling the story here. First of all, I love the fact the empowerment and just you learning and adapting to the craft that is bounty hunting. What I really love about this too as well is, again, it's so interesting because we mentioned talking about normalizing the adult entertainment industry. As soon as you find out, they pump the brakes. But I got to say, I still admire, not only do I love the craft and how you really got into what you did there, but you also look at the reality TV side of things, because when you look at that particular time period, like you had the celebrity realities on like VH1, The Flavor of Loves and The Rock of Loves, and then the True TV, you had the Operation Repo and like South Beach Toe and stuff. So I think what's really cool about it too, as well as you acclimated to the fact of reality television, and that also broadens up the spectrum for entertainment. And I think that's another huge viewpoint that a lot of people can see and really take in from that side of things in the television aspect.
And, you know, I didn't get a season 2 of Wife, Mom, Bounty Hunter for the same reason, because they found out halfway through shooting season 1 that I was a former porn star. And why they didn't do their research on me before they cast me in the show, I have no clue. But they ended up burying the show after they found out that I was a former porn star, which, you know, is really stupid, because if they would have used my notoriety as a former adult film star turned bounty hunter, can you imagine the draw to the show?
Oh, that's the thing. I think
Yeah.
from the marketing standpoint, as you so eloquently put it right there, Tiffany, I look at it like this. You can market that, but also at the same time, first of all, I've always been one who cares? You know what I'm saying? Your former porn star, what have you, that doesn't define you. It's what you did, and it's a career point. But at the end of the day, you're still a doggone person. I've always looked at it like this. It's another form of living. If you're making money, you're doing what you love, be happy with it, you know? So you did the porn thing, you did the bounty hunter thing. It's just a transition. I think that's any party in everybody's life. It's trajectory. It's in a transitional period, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did bail bonds and bounty hunting for 13 years, just so you know. I started off in California. And then after Zeke fired me, my husband and my family and I, we moved to Arizona. And I was like, damn, if I'm going to be anybody else's mercy, I just started my own operation. I opened up my own bail bonds agency and started doing my own bounty hunting. And then word got out about my team, and other bail bondsmen started hiring us to do their bounty hunting. And then word got out in the industry that this former porn star was a bounty hunter, and Hollywood came a knocking. You know, of course, that's a recipe for a great reality show right there. So, yeah, Hollywood came a knocking, and I was in like Marie Claire magazine, and I think I was in People magazine, and a whole bunch of publications. And so, the show got picked up by World of Wonder, was the production company, and they sold the show to the WE channel. And so that's pretty much how it happened. But yeah, then they found out halfway through shooting season 1 that I was a former porn star, and put the kibosh on season 2.
I mean, I look at it like it stands too, like, and I also credit VH1 like before that. Like, you look at the Surreal Life. If you even notice when you looked at the Surreal Life back in the day, like a lot of those talents did do some adult entertainment work as well. But again, that's VH1. But the WE channel, I look at it like this. I think what I love about your craft, and we mentioned this, and I'll reiterate this point. You go from being a bounty hunter and showcasing your badassery and your empowerment, but you also come from Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, which I'm going to say right now, huge fan. Love what you did on the show. But I also got to, you're very welcome, but I also got a perspective like this, because I've done a lot of wrestling interviews and I've done a lot of wrestling shows here. What I love about Glow, and I say this with the utmost sincerity and respect towards you and all those ladies, entertainment at its finest, just overall pageantry, the glitz, the glamour, being trained by the likes of Armando Guerrero, of the legendary Guerrero family.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different art forms to it from the 80s, and especially now with what we got to see on Netflix, and especially women's wrestling as a whole. It really revolutionized and put a lot of things into perspective and on the map for a lot of women's entertainment and wrestling.
Yeah, we were certainly ahead of our time with Glow, for sure. Yeah, it was a cutting edge show.
And I look at it like this. I mean, let's put this into the forefront. You and Roxy Astor, the Park Avenue Knockouts, apropos. Both of you ladies were absolutely amazing as a tag team. I've seen you done your thing with Hollywood and Vine and so many great talents of that era. I got to ask you, getting into Glow, seeing what it's really become as far as history making for wrestling and just in general from the entertainment side of things. Talk about that overall chemistry and synergy that you have with Roxy.
Oh, we were so fortunate that they put us together as a tag team, because we were the best. We still are. I mean, we've maintained contact ever since we left Glow. We've never lost contact with each other, and we're still friends, but we bounced off each other so well. We had such great chemistry together. Just a great symbiotic relationship. And we, hung out as friends outside of the show as well, and, went a lot of places together, and had a lot of great laughs, a lot of great times. And wow, yes, she was just so wonderful. Just such a great tag team partner.
I think what I love about it too as well is not only just the promo game and just the verbal exchanges that you've had with so many of the great talents. I really did enjoy not just the fact of every season of Glow and what we have, but I think when you think of Glow and the Gorgeous Lady Wrestling and women like yourself, we talk about revolutionizing women's wrestling, but this was also one of a kind of its time, because when you look at the 80s and you look at professional wrestling as a whole, there was very minimal usage of women back in the day. Like, mind you had like the Fabulous Moolah and Wendy Richter in the 80s, and we saw the Rock and Wrestling connection with Cyndi Lauper coming into the mix. But yes, the women's representation here was absolutely on point. I think that really set the tone, really trailblazed what the 80s was, which a lot of people can really showcase the golden age of. It really was a hot point.
Yeah, and I was so fortunate to be a part of that. So fortunate to be a part of the golden age of adult filmmaking. You know, before it went to shit. um, and just I've just done so many crazy things in my life and enjoyed every second of it.
No, and first of all, I like how you put the bluntness to that because I laugh too at it like this because I look at the nostalgia factor. I mean, if you even look at the 80s, like when you had Kinky Business with Ginger Lynn, which was the porn adaptation of Risky Business, you look at that shower scene, you look at a lot of things like that. And I mean, myself growing up as a 90s baby, you had Naughty America and many of these sites, and you had members access and what have you. It's so different to what we have now, but a lot of the stuff in the storytelling, especially because with any great film, with any great show and episodic television and movies, storytelling is there. And that really showcased in a lot of your films, like from Ron Jeremy, from Shawn Michaels, from everything that you've done with Peter North. There's storytelling, there's sensuality, there's everything that is encompassed with what makes a great pornographic film.
And that is sorely lacking in today's porn biz. Really, it is. I mean, I could go on and on and on about what's missing, but there's good news. You may have seen on my social media that I'm now producer, director, and talent for Velvet Dream Studios, which is Foxy Darlin and Mr. Foxy's company. And that is our mission, is to bring the 90s glamour and style and sensuality and passion back to smut, bring back what is missing. And that's why they put me at the helm, because I had my own production company when I was in the business in the 90s. I did a lot of parodies. I did a parody called Jailhouse Cock. I did one called Generally Horny Hospital. I did one called The XXX Files, Lust in Space. But I produced a total of 8 movies, and they were all very well received in the industry at a time when women did not typically have their own production companies. Of course, now it's more common, but back when I did it, it was unheard of. And I was I was not encouraged to do it by the industry. The men in the industry did not encourage me to start up my own production company. So I was, in an uphill battle against that as well. But I still did it. And so that is, anyhow, that's back to today. That's our mission with Velvet Dream Studios, is to bring back all of that style and glamour and storytelling that's missing.
I think what I like about it too, and what you're making me smile with your verbiage here, and what I like about it too, is there's etiquette and discipline that goes into not just the adult entertainment industry, but everything in life. You have to look at it from a standpoint of there's etiquette with how you dress from the external side of things, and especially the internal side of things. When the camera rolls, and especially I equate this with your films, Miss Million, you have that chemistry, you're loving what you're doing, you're having fun. And that is, again, like you mentioned, what's missing in today, but with this new production, like you mentioned, I think bringing that back, and also not only doing that, but teaching what the new generation really got what we back in the day. It's all about adaptation and growth. And if there can get people to gravitate and really get their eyes on it and really learn from it, that's really one of the great basic general consensus of it, really putting more eyes onto it, and even newer eyes at that.
Oh, when I come back into the business next month, trust me, I plan on schooling a lot of these youngsters in more ways than one.
Let's put this into the forefront. I have to say this. Not only do we have your stuff, what you got with your films, but let's put over the imagery of the beautiful Miss Tyffany Million here, because my God, woman, you can rock the lingerie. You got the black, you got the leather going. I got to say, with everything that you've been putting from the imagery standpoint, I love it. You've been killing it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tried to give you a different look today. I rarely ever wear red. It's just not my favorite color, but it looks good on me. So I was like, I'm going to wear red for him today, because I never wear red. So I thought I would change up my look for you a little bit.
Well, first of all, you look absolutely fabulous, number one. And number two, all women are queens, and all women absolutely look beautiful, and they shine and grind, and you certainly do that. You look lovely.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And speaking of looking lovely, we got to put this into the forefront, because we mentioned the OnlyFans side of things. You talk about your 23-year-old boy toy. For those that have been checking this out on Twitter, my goodness gracious, you gave us samples. You gave us a little taste, a little appetizer. Talk about what we can expect there, man, because I saw some of that sample stuff. Very sensual, very hot. I liked it.
Yeah, my OnlyFans depicts my real sex life with my real 23-year-old lover, and there are no performances on my OnlyFans. He's the only guy on there with me, and it's unlike I think my OnlyFans is unlike any of the other OnlyFans out there, because not only is it my real sex life with no performances. In our latest video that we just posted, we took questions from our subscribers. And I answered 2 questions that I frequently get, which is, what's it like to fuck Tyffany Million? And people always want to know how we met. So we answered those 2 questions on camera before we got busy, which personalizes it a little bit. You know, I think that my subscribers really like that. And then the other thing I think that sets mine apart is that all the other OnlyFans charge you, like they charge a subscription fee, and then you have to pay per item. Like you have to pay to watch every single video. I don't do that. Mine is one flat fee. You pay one flat fee and you have unlimited access to everything on my OnlyFans, all videos, all photos, everything.
And I think not only is that a great deal, but also you give it everything for everybody to be affordable and really get to see, like you mentioned, the authenticity and genuinity that goes into your OnlyFans, and especially with your 23-year-old lover, which I got to put this into the forefront here. 23 and dating someone like yourself, first of all, God bless, but also number 2, man, it's the youngsters, man. You're teaching us youngsters out there. Hello.
We know. He did not need any instruction other than just a little lesson on how to perform oral sex on me the right way. But I showed him one time and he ran with it. And now it is not an issue.
Well, I got to say, God bless the both of you, man, and nothing but love and happiness. I cannot wait to see future scenes going forward, because if that was anything that we got, I cannot wait to see it. I think that's really awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you could tell that I was really into it, right? I mean, he is the first guy to ever make me come from straight penetration without touching my clit, without using a vibrator. I mean, he sticks it in, and within 3 minutes, I am gushing and orgasming over and over and over, to the point that I'm breaking out in hysterical laughter. Like I can't control myself. That's how much this guy takes me to another level that I've never been to before. It's insane. And I can't show a lot of that on my OnlyFans because we role play mother-son, and that's not allowed on OnlyFans. So unfortunately, like I can't show that. I wish I could, because it gets really steamy, but yeah, I can't show it.
I will say this, and what I love about how you just really interpreted that from the orgasmic and the climax side. I mean, you work with the likes of Peter North, like I mentioned, and Ron Jeremy. Peter North known for his cum shot, and I mean, Ron Jeremy being such an OG legend in the adult entertainment industry. And I know you've mentioned on social media with many of your posts that really bring the nostalgia to it. Shawn Michaels, I mean, you're working with like 3 top grade talents right there that really get to really produce in their own right. They're legends, they're OGs in their own state.
Oh, well, you know, Shawn is my favorite. He's always been my favorite. He and I were just snapping each other on Snapchat just a little while ago before I did your show. But I plan on doing a reunion scene with Shawn, and I'd like to do it for Velvet Dream Studios for my own company. And I'm really looking forward to it, because Shawn and I had the most insane chemistry together on camera. I never fucked him off camera, but on camera, our chemistry was just crazy. And we've done 4 scenes together, and in all 4 of them, you can very clearly see that there's something between us.
I've gone back and watched a lot of the 90s stuff, and I will say this. The raw passion is there, number 1, but also number 2, folks, if you've not checked it out, I got to say, one of the most beautiful, articulate etiquette and stuff that really goes into there. It really does get steamy, and I got to say, as a fan of myself, of the fine arts and the fine craft that you all do, I love it, man. Like, for it, I cannot wait to see that reunion, but also at the same time, my God, man, steamy, love, and passion. That's what it's about at the end of the day.
It is. And again, that's what's missing. Like today's porn is so mechanical. I've watched some of it, and it doesn't interest me at all. It's just very, very mechanical, and there's no human connection. There's no passion. There's no seduction. I mean, all I'm seeing is like all this wild, crazy, super nasty, all these things, like these terms that we didn't even have when I was in the industry before. I had to ask, like, what's gaping? I have no idea what that was. I'm hearing this term gaping. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then ATM, I'm like, what's ATM? We didn't have these terms in the 90s, you know?
No,
So
with you.
I'm having to kind of learn new stuff myself.
No, I'm right there with you. And I come from, and like I said, being a 90s kid myself, I mean, I look at it like this. Like back in the day when you had Cinemax and you had the Cat House, the series, and then you had Nicole Sheridan and Willow being in their films at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you got to see what that film would be. And I mean, it's a lot of the same plot, but at the same time, you know what you're getting. But nowadays, it's just like, I completely hear you on this. I think the fact of the matter is this: we lose a lot of storytelling, we lose a lot of art, and it turns from love to lust. But which again, lust is great, but it's not all about lust. The love is the bigger proportionate style of what makes a great film. So I mean, hey, if we can bring it back like you so aptly want to do, I think it's worth it, and I think it's really going to add a lot to the spice and variety of what we get to see in today's day and age.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nobody out there is doing what Velvet Dream is going to do. I haven't seen anybody doing what I want to do. I'm going to bring my own special signature touch to our projects. I have a lot of ideas. And I think we just have no competition because I'm not seeing anybody do it.
Well, I think in
Sorry.
No, I love the bravado, and I think what I can add on to that is you have accommodation comfortability, you have safe and spectacular. You're showing the right way to do it. That really goes into everything. And I think the moment, not even just on camera, but behind the camera, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. And I think people need to see the broad spectrum, the bigger picture of it, because it's not just, okay, let's have sex on camera. It's just, okay, let's get the lighting fixed. Let's get this. There's a lot of layers and levels to everything. You hear the common phrase, there's levels to this, including the adult entertainment industry.
And I was very fortunate to be part of the industry in the 90s when they still shot on film on occasion, and we still had real scripts and production values. And, you know, it was like a real movie set, just scaled down, especially if you've watched any of the 4 big Michael Ninn films: Sex Part 1, Sex Part 2, Fate, Latex, and Shock. And I starred with John Doe in all 4 of Michael Ninn's biggest films. And those were highly stylized, and they won more awards than any porn film has ever won. I mean, Michael Ninn is a freaking artistic genius. And I've maintained contact with him the entire 30 years that I was gone. And I'm going to see him when I go to AVN in Vegas. I'm going to go to his house and see him and his wife. And I'm really excited about that.
I think what I also love too as well, you mentioned the awards and the sex and the imagery and the directorial vibes. When you look at AVN, you see the pageantry, you see the glitz and the glamour. What I've always loved about it, and I've always appreciated it, is because of the fact of the matter is this: the glitz, the glamour, the pageantry, the dresses, everything for this overall spectacular nature. And you deserve, I mean, you know, the XRCO awards and everything that you've gotten being nominated for in sex and a lot of the great stuff that you've done, especially now the AVN Hall of Fame. It's just a testament to your work and people that really grinded to what we get to see now. I think it's a testament to really what we get to see in the adult entertainment industry, and rightfully so for the hard work that everybody puts in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I got to tell you, a lot of the like current talent is telling me how the women or the girls dress. They're like, be prepared when you go to the convention, and be prepared when you go to the award show, because it's not like when we were in the business before. These girls are practically pumping people on the floor. Their tits are hanging out, their ass is hanging out. I mean, they're like, I'm like, it wasn't like that in the 90s. When we went to the award show, we wore evening gowns, and we had our nails done and our hair done, and everything was all stylish. We didn't walk around like a bunch of tramps at the convention. You know, we might have been dressed really sexy, but we still conducted ourselves in such a way that was respectable for a porn star, if there is such a thing. But this new generation, they're just all over the place.
I like how you put that, because I had a similar conversation with Rebecca Bardot, who I had on the show many years ago. She said practically almost the exact same thing. Like, well, everybody's like grinding and like twerking now. And we used to have, it's just like, okay, we have a nice dress. We have everything. Makeup's on point. Everything's on fleek. And then nowadays it's just like, all right, let's bump and grind. Let's twerk. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it's very eccentric. And I mean, I understand the times now, but also at the same time too, tact goes a long way in any form of life. If you have the tact in it, then you're really golden, you know?
And another thing that these young girls don't understand about men that I do understand about men, it's not what they see, it's what they don't see.
Right.
You have to leave it to the imagination. That's what's sexy to a man. It's not everything hanging out.
No. And I mean, to go on to your point as well, first and foremost, beautifully said, ma'am. And I look at it like this, and I smile when I think of that, because again, you could give me the sexiest thing ever, but I think at the end of the day too, you could just, again, it's a connection, it's a mutual connection. That's what makes love and relationships and everything worth having. There's more to one's eye than just, you know, bada bing, bada boom. There's everything that goes into an instant connection, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I've talked about this with my business partners, with Foxy Darlin and with her husband, Mr. Foxy. You know, the one thing that I figured out very early on when I was in the business in the 90s was that when I'm shooting a scene, I'm not there to fuck my co-star. I'm actually fucking the viewer. The co-star is just the stand-in for the viewer. So if you ever watch any of my old scenes, like starting after I was in the business for about 6 months, I'm always looking in the camera. I'm always talking to the camera. I'm making love to the camera because I'm fucking the viewer, not my co-star. And for me, that's the exciting part about making a porn film, is knowing that my viewers are watching me and they are desiring me and they're wanting to fuck me, but they can't. And there's something really hot about that.
There absolutely is. It's the eyes on the camera. It's much like you see, and I'll make it equated to a music video, right? It's like when Tawny Katane is looking right into the camera in the White Snake video for Here I Go Again. She's on the car, and it's just a woman just looking beautiful, just dancing all over the car and whatnot. But you also have the image of her looking into the camera. It's the lust in the eyes. It's the overall scene. It's what makes the scene worth having. It's what makes the video worth having. And that's the important part. It's the subtleties, intricacies, and nuances.
Oh yeah, she was really hot in that video, wasn't she?
Very much
yeah,
so.
very hot.
No, very much so. I have to thank my dad for that, because my dad was a big White Snake fan. I grew up with both of my parents, a very eclectic mix. My dad was more the rock guy. My mom was more like pop and R&B. But yeah, that's getting to see a lot of that stuff. That's very hidden in pop culture. A lot of people can really equate to these subtleties, the intricacies, and nuances, which, going back to that for a second, I have to ask about Glow once more, because the subtleties, intricacies, and nuances in Glow in professional wrestling and being able to entertain, for you, I have to ask you, because being an integral part of what is this testament to professional wrestling, how did kind of Glow kind of get into your lap? Because god dang it, man, hell of a character, hell of entertainment, hell of performers even. But what kind of got you into the Glow side of things for Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling?
Oh, how did I get into Glow?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was already an actress, and my agent, I would go to my agent's office and look at the dailies. The dailies are like the things that come out from all the companies wanting to hire like actors and actresses, like what roles are available. So I was in his office one day looking at the dailies, just seeing what he could cast me for. And on the wall behind him was a notice tacked behind his desk, and it said Glow auditions. Now, I had just recently become a fan of the show. I lived with two lesbians, a lesbian couple in Orange County, and one of them is still a good friend of mine to this day. She follows me on my social media, but she's kind of the more butchy one of the two. And so one morning on a Saturday morning, she came banging on my door, and because my real name is Sandra. So she's like, Sandy, you got to come downstairs and watch this show with me. This crazy show. It's these women wrestling, and they have these sexy tight costumes on. And most of them were wearing like thong bottoms, and their tits are almost falling out. And like there's crotch shots, and their legs are spread wide open, and they have this crazy makeup on, these crazy hairdos, and these comedy sketches. And she like had my attention immediately. I was like, oh really? I want to see this. So I came downstairs and I watched it, and I was instantly hooked. So we would watch it together every Saturday when it was on. So when I saw the notice on the wall, I was like, ah. I said, my casting agent's name was Michael. He was this total queer guy. And I said, Michael, I want to go out for that. And he's like, you want to go out for that? And I said, yeah, I want to go out for that. Send me out. And he's like, okay. So he hooked me up with a meeting with Matt Cimber, who's the director of Glow. Little interesting trivia about Matt Cimber. Matt Cimber was married to Jane Mansfield when she was killed. And they have a son together, Tony Cimber, and Tony was our assistant director for Glow. So I went out and met Matt at his tennis club in West LA, and we talked for a couple hours, and he cast me right there on the show. He didn't know what character he was going to give me yet. He said that we would decide that when all the girls got to Vegas and he got to know us a little bit better, got to know our personalities, but he cast me on the show. Now, here's a little interesting trivia about when I saw that notice on the wall. On the wall next to the Glow notice was a headshot of a very good looking man. And so my eyes traveled over to this headshot. And I said, by the way, Michael, who is that super good looking guy next to the Glow notice? And he turns around. He's like, that's John. He's going to be a big star someday. It was Johnny Depp.
Oh my goodness.
He and I were cast out of the same agency for a while. That was before he was on 21 Jump Street. So for a while, Johnny Depp and I had the same agent.
And I will say this, both in your own respective ways, I will say, had great careers. I mean, I look at it from a stance like this, like Johnny Depp with he could do anything from any type of film. He could be serious, he could be funny, especially with 21 Jump Street and the badassery of that show. But I think the acting field with you, and as well, I'm going to put this into the forefront, you could really play, and we touch upon the multifaceted side of things. You could do your thing on Glow. You could do your thing in the adult entertainment industry. You could be a doggone bounty hunter. I think what I love about you, too, is we mentioned the multifaceted side of things here, Miss Tyffany Million. A lot of people got to see just you really get to evoke emotions and elicit reactions. And I mean, you got to learn to wrestle. You got Mondo Guerrero, great teacher, one of the legendary Guerrero family names right there. But you really got to learn and do the craft. And being as someone who's a fan of it to be on that show, I think really, and me personally, and I'll say this, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, you transition very well into the role.
And you know what? Before I was on Glow, I was not a fan of wrestling. I was not even athletic. I've practically flunked PE in school. I hated it. When I was younger, I was a total wallflower and a bookworm. Like I would go to school dances and I would hug the wall, and my friends would literally have to grab me by the arm and yank me, and I would hold on like to something. No, I don't want to dance. Like I was a total wallflower, and you would just never like imagine that out of me now, but I was.
Well, I will say this, and first of all, nerds rule the world, fellow nerd here. I will say this. No, I'm right there with you because I wasn't hugging the tree, but being the nerd myself, I was a bookworm in my own right, ladies and gentlemen. So I concur with you because it's just, there's something about it. But I look at it from the stance too as well, not only on the intelligence side, but I think as you get older and you really explore and you expand your horizons, you get to really break out of your shell, so to speak. So there's a lot that goes into it. You know, it's how we evolve and evolutionize as well as far as people, you know?
And I mean, I've done a lot more than Glow and adult films and Wife, Mom, Bounty Hunter. I mean, I've done an awful lot more than that. I've done radio. I've written 3 books. I starred in Carnal Comics. I've got a trading card. I got 2 more trading cards coming out. I've done a ton of B movies. I've been on Tales from the Crypt. I've been on My Two Dads. I mean, I've done television appearances, television commercials. I've done all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, but my favorite is the adult film industry. And everybody always says, why did you do porn? You didn't have to do porn. You were an actress. I'm Screen Actors Guild. I'm SAG-AFTRA. I said, because I fucking wanted to. That's why, because I love it. I love sexually performing in front of the camera. And I love knowing that my audience is watching me and getting turned on, and that they want to fuck me, and that they can't. There's something kind of hot about that. I think these days they call it a cuckold.
Yep.
I think it's called a cuckold these days. Yeah. That term didn't exist when I was in the business before. I had to actually look it up on Google. But The thought of having a cuckold really turns me on. And I actually have a guy who's approached me recently. He wants me to be his mistress and he wants to be my cuckold. And he just gets so turned on when I tell him how little his dick is and how he'll never be able to fuck me because you could never satisfy me. And he wants to watch my 23-year-old lover fuck the shit out of me. And can I get really dirty on your show?
Of course.
Okay, he wants my 23-year-old lover to ejaculate in my mouth, and then he wants me to walk over and spit my guy's cum in his mouth. And he asked me if I would do that, and I said, "Well, I don't know. How good of a boy are you going to be? Are you going to tip me? Are you going to like make it worth my while? Like, I'm not going to do it just to do it. You're going to have to make me want to." I turned him on so much. So yeah, like the thought of having a cuck like really turns me the fuck on, because that's one of the things I love about making the movies to begin with, is that feeling of that they're watching me and they're desiring me and they want to fuck me, but I'm unattainable. And I like that.
I mean, and nowadays we hear terms like simps and have it being like a simp and a cuckold, which is like, again, newer terms, but also kind of goes back to what we saw in the nostalgia days. Like you mentioned, like there have been scenes like that. I remember as a kid, like one of my earliest introductions to the adult entertainment industry, there was a threesome scene where a girl got cum in her mouth and then she did into the other girl who they were having a threesome with mouth. Like that brought into the spectrum. I mean, we see a lot of things. If you look at like MTV True Life, they showcase the dominatrix side of things. So there's many different layers of fetishes and many different layers and categories of sex in the adult entertainment industry that a lot of people get into. And I mean, again, we used to talk about letting our freak flag fly. Sometimes you got to get a little freaky with it. It's the truth. I mean, Houdini's saying the freaks come out at night. You got to get a little freaky with it. Get your freak on, to quote Missy Elliott. I mean, come on. You got to do it. You got to explore.
And I'm naturally dominant. I mean, that's my nature. I'm naturally like an alpha female. Right. So the thought of doing that, like, ooh, I like that. That turns me on. And it's so against my nature, because by nature, I'm a very sweet, kind, warm, personable, bubbly person. I love people, and I'm like, how you see me now, this is how I always am. So to be able to be a little bit abusive and have somebody enjoy it and pay me for it, that's a win-win. I like that.
Well, that's what gets them in it. It's your just overall, we mentioned authenticity and genuinity. It's being personable and really being how it is to your community, especially with OnlyFans and now with the introduction of many vids and so many different adult-oriented sites now. That's how you have to be. And also at the same time, too, to quote Mariah Carey back in the 90s, it's being that sweet, sweet fantasy baby, so to speak. So that really, so to speak, you know?
Now, you just brought up Mariah Carey, so I'm going to tell you something that I've never said on any other podcast because you brought it up. Okay. I used to date her brother.
Oh, my goodness. You're kidding. Wow. Wow. Okay.
Before she was famous, when she was still a waitress in New York, I used to date her brother Morgan, and he used to come over to my house and he used to always brag about what an amazing singer his sister was. And, you know, everybody brags about their siblings, so it kind of went in one ear and out the other, until one day he brought over a cassette tape of his sister singing, and he played it for me in my room, and I was floored. I said, "Oh my God, Morgan, your sister can fucking sing." He goes, "I told you, that's my baby sis." And then a few years later, I had just given birth to my first daughter, and I was living up in Bakersfield. It's right before I got into porn. And I was watching MTV, and this video comes on of Mariah Carey. And she was new on the scene. And I'm watching the video. It's the one where she's sitting on in the convertible and going down the street, and she's waving her arms in the air. And all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, that's Morgan's sister. That's the one he used to bring her cassette tapes over to my house and brag about. Oh my fucking God, I got to call him. And so I knew where he was working. So I called him. I said, "Hey, Morgan, it's Sandra." I said, "You remember when you used to tell me what a great singer your sister was?" And I didn't believe you. "I just saw your sister on MTV. Oh my fucking God, your sister is Mariah Carey." He's like, "I tried to tell you, my sister's a great singer." I was like, "Well, you weren't fucking kidding, weren't you?"
But that's the thing, like you mentioned, like the videos, like we talked about in the convertible, the fantasies, the always be my baby, the vision of love in the 90s, the honey music video, like Mariah Carey really does. And again, it's 30 plus years later, Mariah Carey still holds up. We talk about the Christmas song every year, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Like that voice still holds up to her generation and generations.
Yeah, I actually saw her live about 8 or 9 years ago when she was pregnant, or it might have been longer, but she was pregnant with her most recent child, and she was so fabulous live. Oh my gosh, what a showstopper she was.
It's funny because I'll mention another name for anybody, and this again will show our nostalgia here. I remember I actually went to, God rest his soul, Luther Vandross had like a concert. Like I went to one of his concerts like a year before he passed, and I'm gonna say right now, even X amount of years later from where he started in the '80s, Luther Vandross is probably still one of the doggos live. If you've never seen Luther live, oh my God, he gives you never too much. He gives you the oldies, the so amazings. I'll take you out. Luther Vandross is another one that really stands the test of time. Male, female.
Oh yeah, the voice. Yeah, the voice is, yeah, Luther's voice is just so unique. It's it's so soulful.
It's one of those, and I think, and it's interesting, like years, I'll even go with Cher on this because I took my mom for her birthday. My dad and I took her to, we were in North Carolina. We went to Raleigh to see Cher, and opening up for Cher was, oh my goodness, it was Chic, and they were doing their thing. Like Chic was in there as well doing the thing, and then you had Cher. Like it was an extra like awesomeness of music, and Cher still holds up. Chic still holds up. Again, it's generation upon generation. Like seeing that live is really a spectacle. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about music earlier. I'm a total rocker all the way. I'm a total rock and roller through and through, but I do like to listen to 80s music once in a while because I'm an 80s child. And Depeche Mode is like my favorite 80s band. I fucking love Depeche Mode. What was it, in the 90s or the 80s, I saw them 3 nights in a row in LA. I could not get enough of them. So I was always a huge Depeche Mode and Culture Club fan. And then today, aside from rock and roll, believe it or not, I'm a gigantic Lady Gaga fan. I've seen her 4 times live, and I just fucking love her.
I mean, first of all, you have great taste, ma'am. And number two, I mean, who doesn't love a good poker face and perform and Born This Way and all the great Lady Gaga hits? But yeah, no, I'm right there with you because my rocker side comes from my dad. I remember we talk about Long Island, New York, like Jones Beach. I'm going to say right now, Sammy Hagar and Aerosmith, like Sammy Hagar, and then you get Aerosmith. Like that's a recipe for just awesomeness right now, just because of how old they've gotten, and especially Van Halen. Like, oh my goodness gracious, man! Like that stuff still holds up. It was so good. If you've not seen Sammy Hagar Aerosmith live, I invoke you to go because it's so good.
Well, when I met Steven Tyler, because being a porn star, all the rock, you get to hang out with rock stars when you're a porn star. So I've met and hung out with a lot of rock stars. But when I met Steven Tyler, well, you know what I said to him? He was so skinny, and I said, "Steven, you need a sandwich." He goes, "You think?"
You know, I mean, I look at it like this. I mean, he had a song called "Don't Want to Miss a Thing." You don't want to miss a sandwich. Hey, now. But I look at it from a stance like this.
Yeah, the guy is so skinny. He's like all lips and bones. But that's what I told him when they introduced me to him. That's the first thing I said to him. I said, "Steven, you need a sandwich."
Well, I will say this, and I got to put this over because if you've not checked out again, this wonderful woman over here on social media, you put up a lot of the celebrity stuff like Sebastian Bach and Skid Row and Casey of Casey and the Sunshine Band. Like, come on now. Like, that's two of great classics of rock and just overall music in general. Those are two amazing figures in the world of music.
Yeah, and I took that picture with Casey, and I sat down on his lap and stuck my tits in his face, and I didn't know that he was gay when I took that picture. And he was such a good sport, he was a total good sport about it, but he was so nice to me. But I was kind of embarrassed after I took the picture because somebody whispered in my ear, they go, "He's gay, right?" I was like, "What?"
Hey, I mean, that's the way. I like it. So you had to do something special for Casey. I understand. No, but I mean, that's awesome too. Just because, again, seeing the nostalgia photos, and we really touched upon a lot of nostalgia, like that brings back memory. Because again, my father and I, like my dad, and my earliest memory of rock on my dad had a Poison CD in like one of his old cars. Like I remember, like
I've seen Poison, yeah,
right. Like nothing for the good time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, every rose has its thorn. Like Bret Michaels, even still, like the 80s, like they killed it. Like they're epitome of rock in the 80s.
Fuck yeah, glam rock, baby. A hair rock, big hair rock. That's what we were into back then.
Hell yeah. And I think there's even
I
one.
still like it.
I completely concur with you because I mean Hair Nation is still one of the biggest ones on like Sirius XM for like music. Like, come on now, who doesn't love good Hair Nation and the rock and roll, man? So I get it. I totally get it.
And you know what? When I first met Gene Simmons from Kiss, his assessment of me, he gave me this look and he says, you know, you are a very complex person. That's what he said to me. And then we went out and had breakfast together. And I have never had sex with any of the members of Kiss, yet I've spent a lot of time with the whole band. There was a time when I was in either New Jersey or New York. I went with Gene in his private jet in his limo and to the show. And I was in the dressing room with all 4 original band members out of makeup, just me and them. How many people can say that?
Not a lot, but I will say
No.
that's an awesome image, and that's just an awesome like room, the surroundings, you know.
And what's funny is the other band members, Paul Stanley used to flirt with me all the time, but I wouldn't touch him because he was married, and I don't do married men. But they asked Gene, they're like, so how did you two meet? And it was kind of cool. Like the other members of Kiss are asking Gene Simmons how he met me, like how do we know each other? And so that was kind of cool. But Gene and I were buddies. We were pals. We used to hang out all the time. Like I said, I've been you know, on their private plane. I've been in their limos. I've been backstage and front row to countless Kiss shows. Gene has been to my house and performed magic tricks for my daughter. And I've made him breakfast, and I've been to his private birthday parties. And I know, I used to know Shannon. Ever since I moved out of California, I kind of lost touch with a lot of my like celebrity friends. You know, I kind of retreated to Arizona and lived a low key life. But I'm sure that we will run into each other again at some point, and we will pick up where we left off. He used to call me from the road all the time just to tell me jokes. Like he would call me and I pick up the phone, being, hello, this is before caller ID. And he wouldn't even say, this is Gene. He would just launch into the joke. Hello. So one time there was this guy and he blah, blah, blah. That was it. He would just launch into a joke.
And I think what I really love about this, and again, all smiles during the show, it's really moments and memories, ladies and gentlemen, some moments and memories yet to be created. You have simply, much like Sheila E. once saying, lived the glamorous life and got to see a lot of great things. And I got to say, just hearing your stories is just absolutely amazing. And I'm going to say this to you, Miss Tyffany Millian, not just because you're amazing in your own right, ma'am. I definitely would love to have you back on a round 2, the overtures here, talk about everything that happens after AVN. You have been such a blast to really pick your brain and just have a fun conversation, and I truly appreciate it.
Oh, it would be my pleasure. So for everybody listening, the best way to find me is just my website, TyffanyMillion.com. You can spell it either way. You could spell it the right way, which is TYFFANY million, or you could spell it the wrong way, which is what everybody else does. TIFFANY million. Either way will go to the same place. And there you have everything you want to know about me, all my contact information, all my social media, the link to my OnlyFans. If you want to do a meet and greet with me, everything is there.
And one final question before we do close this thing out. I always love asking this of my guests because we always learn. Again, you never stop learning as a human being. And I think that's the most important and pivotal thing in this thing that we call life. You being the multifaceted one, from Glow, from the adult entertainment industry, bounty hunting, everything that you've got to do in this thing that we call life. What advice would you give people that want to get into the adult entertainment industry, really hone their craft like you and so many others have done? What advice would you give them, Tyffany?
You better have your head screwed on tight and know who you are, because the industry will chew you up and spit you out faster than you know what happened, faster than you can imagine. So you better have a very strong sense of self, a strong inner compass, You better not give a fuck what people think about you. Truly, everybody says they don't care, but they really do. You really have to be your own person and be in charge of your own life and live your life for you.
Beautifully, eloquently, and bluntly stated. Adhere to those words. And I gotta say, man, besides just being an overall dynamo that you are on and off camera, you are a true blessing to this life. And as we all are, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say to end each and every one of these shows, life is an art form. We're all applying our crafts. Continue to apply your craft in amazing fashion. And as always, the message and the key of each and every one of these shows: beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Miss Tyffany Million, I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
It's been my absolute pleasure.